Hello, beautiful people, mystics, empaths, healers, and coaches of the world. Hello,
Mhm.
hello, hello. We are now in one of my crystal chats, which is usually just informal conversations about deep things between healers, coaches, empaths, therapists, and people who work with the development of the new earth. And here we have Spencer Raymon Madden, which is the founder of New Earth Masculine. And
Mhm.
he has been helping me overcome the last little pieces that I had inside my mind and just breaking through those boundaries that I had in order to expand into my purpose, into my impact, and into my, well into my millions if I want to, but it definitely expand my capacity for holding money, which is whether we like it or not, it's sort of a monocracy right now,
Mhm.
and it is
Mhm.
the way that you can impact the world at the moment. So working with
Mhm.
these energies and transforming them, transforming the beliefs of the toxic patriarchy in them is something that Spencer is amazing at, and I just really wanted to bring him on and just talk about this,
Mhm.
the elephant in the room, which is the toxic patriarchy and what it's done to our minds and how it's closed off the limits that we have to making money, and for women themselves who want to step into that fray. So, hi Spencer, say hello and tell people about you, or like, and what your beliefs are about the patriarchy, and also about our experience together. So, hello, welcome, welcome.
Perfect. Thank you, Brenda. It is awesome to be on here once again. Hello to all of your soul tribe. If you're catching this on her profile or
Yay.
any other things, definitely go ahead, add me up if you like our conversation. Like Brenda said, we're just going to flow. We're going to touch on how the energetics of the patriarchy have impacted both men and women. And they've impacted us not only in similar ways, but there are some big differences. So we're going to go into why, like, if you are a beautiful soul sister out there, why your man or your partner may not be stepping up into his fullest potential because of the patriarchy. We're going to talk about how if you are I know many of you are entrepreneurs, you're creatives, you're putting out offers. We're going to talk about how there's lingering aspects in many of us as ascending souls where we get to unhook this patriarchal programming. And we're going to talk tools and tips, and we're going to deep dive into Brenda's really huge breakthrough, which I like to talk a lot about quantum and this ability to instantly shift things that may have been holding on, like you've been going through in your mind for years and years and years. And then when you get into the right energetics, the right container, the right moment, as Brenda knows, you switch things very, very quickly. So Brenda's going to share a little bit of her insights in a coaching session. I like to call it a sacred space session that we had together, where she had a massive breakthrough around the patriarchy, how it had been holding her back. Because remember, the big thing we all have to remember here is the patriarchy has impacted every single soul on this planet. When I say patriarchy, what I refer to is a hyper masculine energetic that is pervasive throughout our history as a species, and its impact on our ability to step into our magnificence, our genius, our expanded, enlightened states. And this energetic that I call the patriarchy, and I use that as a general term because it's people can latch onto it. People is it is designed, we could say it's designed to subjugate us, control us, keep us small, keep us in what I like to call a slave mentality, whether that's a slave to time, whether that's a slave to money, whether that's a slave to your partner, whatever it is. This whole energetic is designed to keep us small and trapped. And as Brenda said, I'm Spence. I also go by Ghostcat Blood.
Yeah.
And it's really become one of my missions to help awakening souls go deep into how the patriarchy energetic is impacting and influencing them, So that way they can bring that to awareness, bring that to their consciousness. Patriarchy runs on all kinds of spectrums, many of them sub and unconscious. Bring it to light, right? We're going to go in there, we're going to shine a big bright light on all of these lower energetics of the patriarchy: lack, scarcity, all elements of fear, smallness, war programming, rape, terror, all of these elements. We're going to shine a light that up. That way you have the awareness, and then you can dissolve it. Brenda shared earlier how, you know, she feels like a vapor of the patriarchy is, you know, it's releasing, it's emanating out off from her. And this is available to all of us. We do not have to live our life enslaved to this energetic of the patriarchy. Part of this awakening process of becoming more conscious, as we like to talk about it, more spiritual, more us, more expanded in our creator energy, is bringing the patriarchy to light and moving it into a space of not judging it as right or wrong. Because this is one of the things that, you know, many of us has judged. Brenda was judging her situation as the patriarchy is, you know, wrong, or was holding her back, or, you know, maybe it's good if you're trying to control people with the patriarchy, but it's not good or bad. It simply is. So when we bring it to light, bring it to our awareness, we can become this witness to this perceived trauma and terror of the patriarchy. And when we can look at it at this level and actually have compassion for ourselves, forgiveness for ourselves, and most importantly, and this is what I work on a lot in my programs, which we'll talk about later, is actually moving into a space of forgiveness and compassion for the patriarchy. And this can literally be the whole energetic of the patriarchy, but this can also be specific, such as, you know, having compassion for a certain man. As maybe it was your father, maybe it was a former lover, maybe it's somebody that you're with right now that is keeping
all of the
energetics, actually having all of the above, and have compassion and forgiveness for the impact of the patriarchy on them. Now, I know we talk a lot about, we're talking to, you know, many of you are soul sisters out there, and, you know, you have fathers, you know, you have grandfathers, you have all of these men in your life who have been impacted by the patriarchy. And I see it so often with, you know, especially with divine female entrepreneurs, creatives, where there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of energetic tie to your father or a close male figure, and it's holding you back from your fullest potential. Many women I see out there are expanding into beautiful divine energetic flow states. You know, you're doing the thing, you're healing, you're growing, you're doing all the courses, you're meditating, you're finding your own way, you're getting messy and chaotic and wild and flowing. And this is how you expand into your highest vibrational state, your higher self, you know, your divine feminine goddess. But many of you are at the 90% of saying this full expanded state. Well, how do so many of you beautiful leaders really take that final step into your magnificence? Well, it comes down to releasing the patriarchy energetic, and it comes down to forgiving all of these men in your life who have impacted you. And many of you think you've done a lot of release work, which is amazing. You have. But we have to take it that final step, just like Brenda did. So Brenda, I know there was a lot in there. I would love for you to just share with your tribe, and that's one of the things I love about you, is you're such a transparent leader, a little bit about this call that we had, and like what you noticed about yourself with these lingering aspects of the patriarchy energetic that you're dissolving every single day.
Well, yes, no, everything that you said, there was like 5 or 6 truth bumps going through me. So there were so many truths in there. And I am so honored that we are talking about this. This is deep. This is a system of levels that has been running us and telling us that we are not worthy. That's the first thing. It's a system of levels. So it wants everybody to stay within one little tiny box when human beings are actually round, form in circles. Nature grows in spirals. It rarely has boxes, except if it's like toys. or very specific rocks that it does, and that's very rarely. But mostly, how nature works is inclusive. It is a spiral that integrates. It is never a system, a classification of levels. Everybody does their thing, but in terms of worth, everybody is across the board, whether it's a cat, an amoeba, a woman, a man, or a god. They are all the same worth. They are just on different levels of existence, doing what they need to do as a whole. And this is something that most women just know. They have that in their bones just by, or in their DNA, just by being a woman. In here, we are the half of the population that kind of grounds that and remembers the origins of the earth itself, which is also very womanly, very the body, the way that it creates. So when you go into your purpose, into your real purpose, not the one that you were taught, but the one that you came here to do, and the one that you came here to be, just be the joy that you are, be the person, and resonate it as, as clearly and as free as we can possibly can, because it is also a slave driving system, because it is of levels, to keep you at the level that you came into, does not want you to get out of. United States, it was kind of an experiment into freedom, and then it just, again, the old toxic patriarchy that wants to keep certain type of people, certain type of like A class, the people that are go-getters, the ones that are driving, and the warriors, to keep them on top. And what that does, it doesn't let the whole organism that we are to actually, it keeps everything else limited, because it's always fighting towards keeping that order and that control and that boxed inness. For me, I've been an entrepreneur for 12 years. The past first, like with an editorial services firm, but then I really just, I'm a healer. That's really where my heart was, and I understood that it was there. But I had no idea how then to actually make money. See, most healers are kind of also married. If you're a nice person or empathic, then definitely you go with the ones who don't have a lot of money, or just the ones on the lower totem pole, because you're not that system of levels, and you're not informing that, and you're not a warrior. You are too inclusive and too weak for this game. So you kind of go in the totem pole. And that identifying as a healer, as the empath, and really building that power, I knew that there was just some things in me that I was totally programmed. Now, I also was molested when I was 6 years old by two brothers. So, and it was a weird thing, but I knew that was the moment where I just kind of it was too early, and I got into this weird mechanism of, if I saw two, especially men that were very, very much on the totem pole, and that warrior type of an A-type personality that kind of conquests and takes over, no matter, not thinking that we are whole, thinking how I felt. They just kind of, these were two teenage boys, and so a 6-year-old, and I don't know, man. And I noticed that even though I had cleared a lot of this, every time that one of these men would come up even closer to me, or kind of on the sexual part, I would just flip into like a kitten. But I say it's like it's like the kitten mentality. And I would immediately go into trying to be as sexy as I can, as beautiful as I can, because that is my value, and play down all my successes, the fact that I have been an independent woman for so long. So I knew there were deep, deep blocks, that I needed a soul brother that could take my truth, that could listen to me, that could hold that energy of these type of men, because people who are very confident in themselves have an amazing, strong energy, and it just kind of happens with rocks. It's like the strongest energy wins. So, I needed somebody that felt as strong as that, to be able to hear me and be in their feminine self, but still holding the masculine, for me to be able to break through all that first time that I was just kind of taken, which happened later on in different ways, and I don't want to go into them, but I knew that I just needed the other side to heal it together, because I knew there were there were things also that after we did that, and it was just unpacking. I knew that at that point, what the only blocks that I had to making a lot more money and actually living the life that I wanted, that has been like that felt like so difficult for me to achieve, and is finally happening. I'm about to move into the Netherlands and open up the rock shop, but
Yes.
it was very medular for me to go and seek you, as well as Trevor. There were two, that day, there were two soul brothers that I just went in there, and you helped me break it down. Well, he helped me, like, just with energy, really transform it to the point of, like, I am free. And these are the kind of things that we do for each other, because I also grew up with kind of a War of the Roses thing between mom and dad. It was just like amazing people, but never really honoring each other for what they were. And I always asked myself, why are assholes in power? Even like
Yes.
4 years old, that was a big thing coming in through. I would see. I was very observant as a kid, so I would see that and I had 3 older brothers as well. So all I would see is like groups of men and their dynamic, and I was just really observant to what was happening. And what I kept asking myself is, why are the assholes in power? Why? And I could not understand. And it wasn't until I think like the last year that I really understood why they are in power. They have no doubt at all. Because they're relying on a system that is very closed off. And if you really think, live your life in terms of, I am the man, I am the king, then you don't even think and go deeper into what that means and what it means to care for being in a position of power also gives you a lot of responsibility, all of those things, which are the ones that the grandmothers and the matriarchy, when it was on, that gave us the grounded that power to men. So yeah, I'm not here to I definitely have a PhD in assholes, but I think that also it's how I've also understood what my play in it was. There's always a co-creation, and that gave me my power back, to understand me, my power, and then it was totally different from all these men that I grew up with, and the men that actually took too much, more that I wanted to give, and just yes, and then in the end, it's the forgiveness and being witnessed with a love from a brother. That was so amazing, Spencer. I just unpacked it with you. That whole
Yeah, it was crazy. I felt like we created a total portal. We created a total portal of healing. I remember that call. I'll never forget it. But it was,
and then it created a healing for you as well, because you went into some.
Yeah, it was a massive activation for me as well. I feel like that was just one of those calls. I know many of you have clients out there, but you feel like, and you're in such a flow state with the other person that it feels like the rest of the world and time and space doesn't really exist. It's just total present, eternal now moment, which was, so beautiful. And yeah, there was a lot that you said in there. So I want to just share, whether it's a man or woman right out there right now, how the patriarchy actually takes down a man or woman from their brilliance, and how we can build that back up and recreate that. So as many of you will know out there, there's 2 types of energies, what we would term masculine energy and feminine energy. The beautiful, what I will call the sacred masculine energy, is all about, adding discipline and direction and structure and systems and stillness, deep centeredness. These are all what I would call masculine energies and sacred masculine energies. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we have feminine energies. This is all about beauty. This is about creation that is uninhibited creation. This is about flow. This is about dance. Like all of these beautiful. This is about birth. This is all of the really feminine aspects. And in this reality that we're all creating that, Brenda and I talk about as this new earth. We are going to see this movement, and we are right now, where sacred masculine and divine feminine, the best aspects, the most aligned aspects of this type of energy are going to come together, and they are right now. We're seeing it by aspects of Brenda having this call with me, her having huge healings. My takeaways from that call really changed and evolved for me as well. All of these aspects of the divine feminine and sacred masculine are coming in. However, part of this earthly experience is to go through the journey of experiencing a massive range of emotions. This is one of the reasons that we as souls step down, volunteer, whatever you'd like to say, and come down into this earthly plane and come into form. So we can experience all of these ranges of emotions. We can go literally from, some, as Brenda has herself, from where you are literally raped, which is like one of the most horrific low vibration emotions that can be experienced, all the way to the ecstatic joy of holding your baby for the first time, or the ecstatic joy of, multiple hours of tantric sex. There's a huge spectrum. And what we are seeing, what we've experienced, is actually the patriarchy, the darker energetics of this planet, exploiting what I would call the hyper masculine. You may call that the toxic masculine. Characteristics and emotions that men and women can experience: aggression, control, domination, subjugation. These are all hyper masculine emotions and spectrums. And then we have all the way over what we call the wounded feminine, or the hyper feminine, which these are really deep states of despair, deep states of loneliness and longing. This is, like deep states of chaos, like
insecurity,
chaos, insecurity, like all of these things that can just go on and on and on. Now, it's important to remember that we were meant to experience any of those emotions and states up until this moment. That has been part of your soul's journey and your soul's remembering and your soul's lessons here. However, what many awakening souls like Brenda and myself are now starting to realize and bring into a reality is we actually don't want to be controlled and identify with the toxic masculine or the wounded masculine or the hyper feminine or the wounded feminine any longer. We feel and know that that would either prevent war or allow that when we went to war, that person would now come and fight with you. Literally, like deep like seeing women as property and as something to be bought and sold. You know, we can talk about prostitution and all of that through the ages. We can talk about the glass ceiling in the corporate ladder, like you just can't go higher. We can talk about all of the belittlement and psychological mind-induced traumas from men who are in the patriarchy energetic that are catcalling. Like, if you're a woman out there, have you ever been called at? Have you been heckled? Has a man ever leaned out a window and yelled like something obscene to you? Well, you've all experienced that. And that's the patriarchy in its finest, right? Impacting that man who's leaning out the window, now yelling at you, and then you taking on that man's projection and internalizing, which many of the women that I have served in containers like the one with Brenda, is that internalization. And then you compare your work to that one projection of the patriarchy. So you can see how it affects and impacts both sides. So what is the solution? Where do we go from here? How do we get to the state where we feel so in alignment and embodied that if someone catcalled you, you would end up just laughing, and actually you would laugh and then send love back to that soul who's so caught in the patriarchy that he's going to do that. But you're instantly falling into a default state of compassion and forgiveness, not only for the person and for the patriarchy, but for you in that moment. And your actual default feeling and knowingness is, I'm a divine goddess and I'm here